Network Entertainment.
This episode may cover sensitive topics like sexual assault, domestic violence, and stalking, which could be triggering. While we recognize the challenges this content may pose, we advise you to prioritize your safety and well-being.
Shocking, sad, revealing, and deeply researched, PH Murder Stories podcast covers the true account of infamous killings and true crime stories from the Philippines.
There's no such thing as questions, just hidden answers. Stay tuned as we revisit the inconceivable crimes that exist.
Some listeners may find the following content of PH Murder Stories highly disturbing due to its graphic nature. PH Murder Stories does not condone nor promote violence of all sorts.
Viewer discretion is advised. A 49-year-old Filipina's death in Burnaby, Canada, sent shockwaves among the Filipinos in her community as she was killed by two young men, aged 21 years old and 15 years old. Her burnt remains would be discovered in Greentree Village Park near a children's playground. Her family, friends, and the rest of her community have been in mourning since her violent death.
You are listening to the PH Murder Stories podcast. This is the second episode of Season 5.
She did not deserve her fate, said her longtime friend. Maria Cecilia Loreto, who often went by Mycel, was among the many hardworking Filipinos abroad, striving to attain a better life. Through her efforts, she was able to bring her family to Canada. However, she would not be able to spend any more time with them as her life was gruesomely taken away by two men. It was believed that the victim and suspects knew each other, and that the incident was planned. Maria Cecilia Loreto was better known as Mycel or Mycel, a combination of her names Maria and Cecilia to her friends and family. She arrived in Vancouver, Canada in 2011 and has since been working multiple jobs, one including at a superstore.
According to Salve Dayaw, a longtime friend of Cecilia's, whom she called Tita, she was known for her love of community, dancing, and singing. Salve is the head of the New Westminster Philippine Festival Society, wherein every year they conduct the multicultural festival at Westminster Pier Park. Salve was a professional singer who ran her restaurant, the Java Jazz Bistro, for more than a decade before selling it. She met Cecilia at the same restaurant as the latter often spent time there. It was through their love and passion for singing that they became close friends. Cecilia was described as one who loved to perform and help out at the many events in their community, as well as being among the performers herself. According to Salve, quote, "She sings in a band and she knows a lot of people. She's very famous in the Filipino community because she serves the community and she has a lot of friends." Unquote. Cecilia had originally lived in New Westminster, then moved to Vancouver for a while before returning to New Westminster to live with her youngest daughter. Ever since arriving in Canada in 2011, Cecilia worked 3 jobs in order to save enough money to bring her husband, son, and daughter to join her in Canada. She was able to reach her goal around 2018 or 2019. According to a good friend of Cecilia, quote, "She was such a bubbly, sweet young lady. I never heard her say anything nasty about anybody." Unquote. It is why all of Cecilia's family and friends were devastated to learn that she became a victim of a gruesome crime.
On March 17, 2021, Cecilia was first reported missing after not coming home that day. Maria Austria, the Philippine Consulate General in Vancouver, shared information about Cecilia that may help in her safe return. A call at 1:57 in the morning on March 18, 2021 was made to Burnaby Fire Department regarding a grass fire at the Greentree Village Park. When the emergency responders arrived, they found a body that was on fire near the children's playground. Upon closer inspection, the victim had apparently sustained suspicious injuries. Thus, the Integrated Homicide Investigation Team, or IHIT, was called to take over the case. Initially, the investigators could not determine the identity of the victim, whom they described as a woman who was under 5 feet tall. According to IHIT detective Lara Jensen, quote, investigators believe it's a woman, but due to the circumstances involved with the burning of the body, that has not yet been confirmed, unquote.
Later on, the IHIT was able to identify the victim to be Cecilia, an immigrant from the Philippines. The IHIT believed that Cecilia was murdered in her New Westminster home on the evening of March 17, 2021, before transferring her remains hours later at the Greentree Village Park. Police tape surrounded the area where Cecilia's body was found, which was just a few meters away from the children's playground. A white police tent was also put up to conduct further investigations about Cecilia. The IHIT also believed that Cecilia's case was not a random act, as the victim and suspects knew each other. The killing of Cecilia was planned and deliberate. However, they assured the public that there is no ongoing concern regarding public safety. According to Sergeant Frank Chang of the IHIT, quote, this was not gang-related. This was not drug-related. This was not a random incident. From what we can tell, we are sure everybody knew each other, unquote. The IHIT cannot disclose further details regarding the incident. Despite the publication ban and act protecting the identity of the minor perpetrator, as well as other details regarding the incident, Salve believes that the investigators truly knew what happened.
Subsequently, the authorities were able to confirm that the 21-year-old perpetrator of the death of Cecilia was Carlo Tobias, who was also facing a single charge of sexual interference involving a minor during November 2020. Carlo was not alone, as he had a 15-year-old with him as they murdered Cecilia. However, the minor cannot be named due to the Youth Criminal Justice Act. Both of them were charged with first-degree murder as well as an indignity to a human body. In March 2021, Carlo and the 15-year-old appeared separately in the New Westminster Provincial Court via video. They were both wearing orange jumpsuits and masks. Further matters were discussed on April 12 and April 28, 2021, for the minor and Carlo respectively. None of Cecilia's family and friends were present during the trial. Prior to being charged with first-degree murder, Carlo also faced a single charge of sexual interference with a minor at or near Richmond during the month of November 2020. According to the Criminal Code of Canada, sexual interference is described as touching for a sexual purpose, directly or indirectly, with a part of the body or with an object, any part of the body of a person under the age of 16 years. A year later, Carlo Castillo Tobias pleaded guilty before New Westminster Judge Peter LaPrairie. The elder suspect admitted that he and his co-accused, who wasn't named due to being underage, waited for Loreto to come home to a rented apartment on March 17 last year. The suspect said he hid behind the door of the said apartment, and when she entered the unit, he punched her in the face, which made the victim unconscious. According to the autopsy reports, the suspect's co-accused, a 15-year-old, allegedly stabbed the victim twice while she was on the floor until she died. After this, the two accused wrapped the victim's body in a blanket and brought it to Burnaby Park, where they set it on fire. The minor will be tried for first-degree murder and indignity to human remains.
Since the violent death of Cecilia, a GoFundMe campaign was put up in order to raise money to help her grieving family. Cecilia's death was a great loss to the rest of her Filipino community, as her presence will surely be missed. She devoted her time to volunteering for the community by organizing and performing at the festivals. According to Lady David, one of Cecilia's friends, she hopes that people would remember Cecilia as a happy and kind person and not reduce her memory to what happened to her. Family, friends, and co-workers visited her memorial located at the Greentree Village Park and offered their sympathies and prayers after the gruesome incident. They were all shocked to discover that the burned victim was someone they knew. Continuous support started pouring on from the community as they came together to remember Cecilia for the great woman that she was.
Thank you for listening to PH Murder Stories.
If you like this episode, give us a 5-star rating on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.
You can also support our show on Patreon. Any amount you donate would benefit our team to keep doing what we love, which is to provide more true crime episodes for our listeners. Link in the description.
For further updates from our show, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at PH Murder Stories. And subscribe to our YouTube channel at PH Murder Stories.
The opinions of podcast creators, hosts, and guests are not necessarily reflective of the official stance of the Pod Network Entertainment, its hosts, or other network programs. The content created by the people behind the podcast is personal and not meant to harm any religion, ethnicity, group, organization, company, or individual.